like, if you're really hitting a wall and you haven't, and you're like, I don't even know what inspires me anymore. I give up, and you just want to just quit all art. Okay. That's a normal thing that happens. It's totally normal. The thing you do in that case is, do you guys remember the splatter exercise we did? Yeah, a little bit, where you threw watercolor on the paper. Okay, you can do exercises like that, where the exercise is designed for you to make mistakes and for you to like just sort of like be able to play again and be inspired again. So for that you can use random character generators. So that's, you go somewhere and it's a random character generator, and it'll be like, make a 3'4" cowboy from space, and then you draw that, and it doesn't matter, like you can just throw it away. It's just to get your brain going again. You can like tear up a piece of paper and see if you can make a drawing out of the torn paper. You can take a magazine and like rip up. I like a lot of physical stuff, so a lot of my exercises will be physical. You can tear up the magazine and start to like rearrange the images in the magazine and see if you find anything interesting there, and then redraw it. You can, one of the things we used to do in college all the time is you'd tape a big piece of paper to the floor, and then you'd secure like chalk or dip a stick in ink so that you can't directly draw, you can't close draw, you have to draw with your whole body from a long distance. And that's another way to start getting excited about drawing again. But anything you can do to like get your imagination going again. Going for walks, super important. Just like going for a walk and looking at the stuff around you. That's really vital to stay motivated for drawing. Going to a museum, doing master studies, that's one of the things. You can do those out of books or at museums. And a lot of museums will even have programs where you can go, and the museum will have a piece that everybody's working on and everybody's studying the same painting. So you go and you do a study of a sculpture or a painting. And when you're doing a study, what you're doing is you're looking at it really, really closely to understand the techniques that the other artist was using. So what we'll probably do is, I think I'm gonna have us do a value study of a painting real quick. We'll do a fast one because I want to show you guys some core concepts. And then that way you'll have an idea of studying. Yeah, and like finding something interesting in the story, all that stuff. Anything that gets your brain going will get you back on track with drawing. Any other questions? Are we remembering to stretch? Do we know how to do our stretches, our drawing stretches? No? Okay.
I don't think we've done those. Yeah.
Very important. Let's see if I can make it enough camera screen. Okay. I'm sorry, my dresser is messy. Okay, so this is one you're going to want to do. So if you do long days drawing, which I do, it's very important to do this. So you're going to take your hand, put it out, gently pull it this way, right? And you want to keep it straight. And then switch it, gently pull it this way. Yeah, can you feel that stretch? Like right here? Yeah. And then same thing, we're gonna pull it up like that. And then like that. Because all that's different muscles, right? Good. And then you should do it on your other arm too, just to keep everything even. All right, and then this is another one we're gonna do. We're gonna put our arms straight out. We're just gonna shake our wrists loose. Shake, 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 shake. All right, good. And then I think there's another one. There's one. Oh, that's right. You flap them like this. Sorry, it's hard to see when it's direct on. Yeah, like that. Like floppy bongos. All right. I know it feels so silly, but you got to do it. And then this is one. So you put your arm behind your back. You guys are probably more flexible than me. it's harder for me to do this now. So you're going to take this arm and you're going to gently try to take this hand and touch the center of your back and gently pull on the elbow. You don't want to feel like any pinching or anything like that, but you want to feel like a gentle stretch. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other arm. This one you can see goes, that's not my drawing arm, so it goes a lot further because the shoulder doesn't get as tight. All right. And then what was the other one? I use, because I'm doing so much gripping, one thing I do is gently pull the thumb. These are all very gentle. Gentle stretching. All right. And then this meaty stuff on here, for me, it gets like sore from holding. So you can rub that gently. And then one of the ones I really like to do when I was playing cello, this is my cello playing hand, so I can do it a lot further on this one. So stretch, gently stretch.
Try that.
Mine go, like I said, mine go a lot farther because I used to play cello. So it goes like, don't worry if yours don't go that far. We're just keeping, like keeping everything moving, taking care of our bodies, especially like if you play video games, you got to do these stretches. Any sort of repetitive motion can cause repetitive stress injuries. So you want to get in good habits before. All right. All right. And there's like a ton more stretches. If you want to stay, let's see if I have my book in my bookshelf. If you want to keep drawing for a long time, hopefully I can locate this book quickly. All right. I don't know how many of you want to keep drawing, but if you do want to keep drawing, this is a book called Draw Stronger. And this one has lots of exercises to make sure that like, instead of like crunching up, some people call it shrimping, where you get, when you're drawing, like sometimes you like crunch over into a little ball. This book helps you learn how to stay like with your shoulders open and your back straight so that, and your wrists stretch so that you don't hurt yourself. It's very, very important. I can't tell you how many people I know who are like in their 20s who have serious injuries. Okay. Now, you guys ready for a little learn how to study art?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the thing. You can do this with any kind of art, okay? So you can do this with, if you pause the TV and like you're watching TV and you're like, ooh, this scene looks really striking to me. I'm very interested in it. You can pause the TV and do the same thing. If there's a video game you like, you can get a screenshot of the video game and look for these same things. If there's a painting you like, if there's a comic book you like, this is just going to be the basic principles of how to do a study. Okay. All right. So here I have a painting called A Summer Day at the Ferry Crossing. What is the first thing you guys notice about this?
Say it.
The shading on the house.
You like that? That's very striking. Yeah, it's got beautiful light. Is there anything else you notice?
The colors.
Colors, yeah. What is the color palette here? One more time.
Warm colors.
Warm colors, yeah. And what are all the colors that are being used here?
A tint of green. Dark green.
I think as we dig into this, we might find that we're only using blue, yellow, and a little bit of brown. Because, well, maybe this little brick red too on this guy's shirt. But this is actually like a really limited palette. And what is making it look so colorful is the way the light is and the way the what are called values are organized. Did I explain values before?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. So value is when we do okay. This is going to be a little value. It is when the light to dark of a color, it's the, whoops, forgot to set it to 100%. So this is our value scale. Okay, black being the darkest, white being the lightest. That was not a very good shot. There we go. Okay, white being the lightest. Okay, so all colors have a value. They have a hue, a chroma, and a value. So the chroma is how close to gray it is and how close it is to the most saturated color. The chroma is if it's like blue, green, all that. Okay. Most browns are like a desaturated, so a low chroma, red or orange. All the siennas are like that. Those are like earth colors. They're made out of clay. That's why they're called earth colors. And then value is the other thing. It's like how bright or how dark it is. Okay. So what is the darkest point of the sky?
I think that's the bottom.
This right here?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So first, let me make us a little white spot to work on. Okay. So we think this is our darkest point of the sky. And there's one more point that might be a little darker. Let's find out. Interesting. So this little spot, that was actually lighter. So this is our darkest point of the sky. What do we think is our darkest point of this building in the foreground?
Tree shadows.
Tree shadow, like here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's 94. All right. What do we think is the lightest part of the sky?
The middle.
Like here, yeah, or upper here? Yeah. Okay. All right. And what do we think is the lightest part of the building? Where the sunlight's hitting it? Okay. When I put this color down, do you think it's going to match the lightest part of the sky or the darkest part of the sky? You think it's going to match the lightest part of the sky? Okay. Ooh, that's interesting, huh? So this, I think you will be very interested to find this medium color. It's right in between. Look at that. So what do we know about the value range of the sky now?
What do you know about that? Say it, just say it.
It's the same value color as the house.
Yep, it's the same value as the brightest parts of the house, right? So the darkest dark of the sky is the same value as the mid-tone of the house. Okay, this is the middle tone. So this means, we'll just make a new page real quick. So if we were to break up this painting and maybe start our own little painting, the quickest way we could start You gotta be able to see both at the same time. Okay, the quickest way we could start is I am gonna guess that also actually this lake is mostly mid-tone. So we're just gonna block that in. We're gonna block in the house. And then we have our darkest bits of the house, right? And you just have to rough it in. You're just getting an idea. And I think I'm betting that those people in the boat are actually pretty dark. They're probably not quite as dark as the house, but I think they're, because if the lake is about as dark as the midtone of the house, or if the general tone of the lake is the same value as the darkest tone of the sky, right? Then what looks darker on that is probably darker than the midtone of the sky. So we'll get that knocked in. And then you can see this little thing is about that same value, right? And then this it's probably a little darker than the brightest point of the sky. We'll do that. And then there is that little highlight here. And then we have our sky coming in. And then we know that there's points in this house where it's almost as bright as the sky. It's just a little under. So it's probably somewhere around there. All right. We have a nice little dot there. So we know that this is darker. All right. We're going to fix something because I'm not. We know that this is light. That's dark. There's our midtone. We can see that the tree. So what we do when we're studying this is we're just sort of piecing it together, right? So we know that the house is the same as the darkest point in the sky. So we need to understand that like the tree is going to be darker than the sky, right? Because the sky looks bright next to the tree. And then there's the dark shadows on the tree. So then the dark elements of the house are also probably similarly dark. And then the house also has like a heavy shadow over here. Okay, there we go. And then this shadow here. Okay, and then we have a little bit of lightness. I think this actually might be closer to that. Like that, and then like that. There we go. Okay, so what we're looking at when we're studying this is we're just trying to figure out how the values are working together, and you can sort of put it together like a jigsaw puzzle, right? So once you have, once you know two things are similar, then you can start working from there. And then you can like, then you can go in and fuss with it, right? So we can see that this space area here of the sky is a little bit lighter than those clouds. So you can push the lightness on that. And then you can sort of deduce that those windmills in the distance, they're like the same value as they're the same value as the dark of the clouds. So do you guys have any guesses why how they're making those stand out, even though they're the same value as the clouds?
Good idea, guys.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think? Yeah.
Saturation.
Saturation.
That's a good word.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let's test it.
Yeah.
Ellie, you can say your idea too.
It looks like we also added some brightness almost on the edge of it.
That what's at the edge of it?
Say it loud.
It seems like it's brighter almost on the edge of it. So
Okay. Yeah, let's make a new layer on this one and we're going to test both ideas. So this is another thing you can do when you're studying. You're like, "Oh, this is an interesting thing I haven't thought about before." So we're going to start with this color. Hopefully, if Photoshop would like to cooperate, which I'm not sure it wants to. Yeah, okay. So it looks like actually our blue is just like a really nice gray, a really warm gray. So even my eyes were tricked. That's why we do studies. Okay, so we have, this is a color of our windmill. This is the color of the core shadow of the windmill. This is the color of the edge of the windmill. This is the light leading up to it. Well, let's see what color that green is, huh? It's brown. And then the thing that really makes this stand out is that white that's snuck in there. So what do we think is the most saturated color here?
White.
The white? Okay. What else does anybody else have any other guesses?
the yellow.
Yellow? Any other guesses? We got 3 colors, so. Okay, we're gonna do this is a cheating tool you can use in Photoshop or in anything that has HSB on it. You can kind of cheat this way. The old-fashioned way the way we used to have to do this in college was we would just sit there and mix the color until we mixed the right color. Took a long time, let me tell you. This is a lot faster. Okay, so this H is hue, S is saturation, B is black. They just labeled it a weird way. I don't know why they designed it that way. So here's our white. That's like 36% saturation. Here's our gray. It's 39. And our yellow is 55. So none of those are very saturated, right? Like that's like a really saturated yellow. What does that make everything else look like? Kind of muddy, right? So it's a lot of times it's the values and sort of the structure of the shapes that make things read more clearly than it is making everything super bright. Do you guys see another spot you want to do a little study of? What looks interesting?
The water by the raft.
Okay, like down here?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to learn about it?
How will they make it like that dark with the shadowing?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So let's think through this problem. So the thing we want to learn is how did they make it look so dark? So the first thing we need to do is identify sort of our 3 values, right? So our darkest point is that like, it's pretty black. And then this is like one of the midtones. This is one of the midtones. That's a more saturated midtone. And then we put this nice little pop of white next to our most saturated or most dark colors. Okay. So when we put a dark color next to a light color, that's called high contrast. And you don't want to do it everywhere because then the eye doesn't have anything to focus on. Like if you look around the room, you won't be able to see very many spots of high contrast. Usually it's like next to a light, or if somebody's wearing something really shiny, there's like very few instances of where there's going to be high contrast. So then one thing that's it when we see something on water, like not sitting on top of water, when we see the reflection, that's the light bouncing off, right? So this is this color, it's matching our black, but you can see it's a little more saturated, it's a little lighter. And then the same thing with this step up, right? It's a little more saturated, even the red of this guy's shirt. That wasn't a good grab. There we go. Even the red of this guy's shirt. Look at how much more yellow it is in the water, okay? Because the yellow light of the sky is also affecting the water. So we have our little ship. All right. And then we want a hard edge here because that's the actual boat. And then where our water happens, what does it look like the water is doing? Moving. Yeah, it has those ripples. What does it look like the painter did to make it look like those ripples?
Lines.
Lines? Yeah, so let's try that. All right, and then it looks like that's not quite matching, right? It's getting close, but it's not quite there. So it looks like in addition to just the lines of light, they also took some lines of dark and sort of interrupted these hard shapes of the boat with other shapes so that nothing has like, it blends a little more, you know? So this guy, it looks kind of like that color. Does that look a little more like water? So what were the steps of thinking about this that we went through?
Value, how light hit the water,
Mm-hmm.
how the artist kind of put interrupted shapes with other colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we thought about what we wanted to learn, and then we thought about what were the questions we need to ask ourselves to how to learn that. And this is something you can use it in learning art, but you can use it in learning anything, right? This is how we study. We go like, what are we trying to learn? What are the questions we need to ask leading up to that? And then you'll be able to master tons of stuff that way. Whatever you want to put your time into.
Yeah, that's good.
Is there anything else you guys want to study from this painting?
Anything, guys?
You're so quiet.
I know.
Yeah.
You guys tired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what would be fun? Actually, let's do this one. We'll take these people here. They look like people, right?
Mhm.
Okay. How much detail do we think is in these people?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So let's see if we can also do a low detail person. Let's see what is the least amount of information we can put into this person and have it still read as a person. Yeah, so this one, I think we can get away with we're going to have this one strong shape, right? And then we're going to have, one thing I like that they're doing here is, you see how there's the coat and then the arm actually breaks into the shadow. And that helps it read more as a person, that the arm is breaking into the shadow. And then this little cravat here helps that read more as a neck, right? Because that's the only place you put a scarf, right? Nobody puts a scarf, like you're not going to fit a little scarf here, right? Now over your chest. And then the hat also helps it read as a person. So look how little information we used to make that look like a person. And then his fishing pole really helps contextualize him, right? You know why he's standing on the river when he has a fishing pole?
Make it look so easy.
It's only like 35 years of practice. But you guys can do it too. You just gotta go. Just gotta practice. Okay, then let's do one of the sitting ladies. Who wants to break it down for me?
Somebody break that down. Someone start talking.
So first you have to show how her arms are kind of like crossed. So you want to show like the shadowing of where her ribs touch her arms.
Do I want to start there?
You can also show how, you can also start with the face, so that when the body.
We'll start with the face. Okay. So I'll start both those ways. Okay. Let's start with the ribs. All right. There's the whoop. I made our background too dark. Or not dark enough. Okay. So there's the shadow of the ribs. Where do I go from here?
Draw the arms in.
Draw the arms. Okay. All right, we got the arms in. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, the white.
The white? Okay. I guess we'll just fill in that chest. There we go. Okay, the white of the carrot. Then what?
And then the head.
And then it looks like there's some, it looks like you can see some skin.
Okay, and then maybe the hat. Maybe the arms. Okay. All right. So then we're going to do this one more time. We're going to start with the head. All right, let's start with the head. Where do we go from the head? Maybe the lace. Okay. And then where from that?
The body and then the arms.
Okay. The body, then the arms. All right. And then we'll get those little crossed arms in there. So working from the head worked a little better. I'm going to suggest one more alternative. Also, I did not do that hat very nicely. I'm going to suggest one more alternative. We're going to start with the whole, like just the silhouette of the figure, and then we're going to knock the other stuff in. Okay, so we know her head is about this big, so I guess I do also start with the head. Not that big. Then we got this shape. And we have our nice little red skirt there. So one thing that's very helpful in painting and drawing is you want to start from the whole and work down to the smaller elements. Because it's really easy to get things off proportion if you're focusing on the small elements and not not how everything fits together. Okay, and then we pop in the highlights. Okay, here you go. All right. And then clean up those edges. Her head's a little bit big, but we'll survive. If we can stop fussing, we will survive. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to work from the big elements down to the small elements, right? So let's do another one that is just the whole painting as big elements. All right. And you can see how this takes like a lifetime to master, right? Because this is just one painting and we've already spent 30 minutes learning just a sliver of information about it. Oh wait, actually maybe let's do something exciting. Let's switch to a new painting. This is one of my favorite paintings. Whee. Assuming Photoshop wants to cooperate. Okay. So now you have something new and exciting to look at. So we're going to start in a similar place. We're going to look at it and we're going to think, before we make any moves, we're going to think about what we're doing, right? So we see there's a pretty bright foreground, but it definitely doesn't look as bright as the background, right? As the sky. We know the sky has the most extreme value change. It has a very bright high point and it has a medium value low point. We see that this figure in the foreground, they are surrounded by pretty high value white, so that we know this is our highest point of contrast. We're always going to focus. And we're first going to start with just sort of the overall composition. And I'm just going to set my brush to 25 so we can sketch it in low pressure and change stuff as we need it. Because we're just learning. We're not, if we really wanted to make it precise and perfect, we could spend 4 days copying it, but we're just trying to get some ideas and pay attention. Okay. And then sort of one of the things that's interesting when I'm copying this painting is all this empty space on the right really creates a sense of force of pushing into this set of figures, right? I'm send them too far over, which will happen. Okay. I said this should probably be about there. Okay. So this border here is pushing right into you guys can see both paintings, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I just realized that sometimes Photoshop doesn't share all the information. Okay. So I sort of have laid out, maybe not exactly correctly where everything is, but we'll adjust it as we need to. So we have this, and then big shapes, right?
I have a question. How would you make the value for the water?
Yeah, let's do it. This needs to go a little darker. Since I'm working in Photoshop, I can just grab stuff. And then just do that. Boop. And let's get over to that water. which is a very interesting element of this painting. And I am glad you asked about it. Okay, so this is likely similar to that value, and it just looks misty and distant because of the context. So this, when we're looking at this water, the first thing we can observe is that the lightest point of it is probably similar to the, ooh, it's darker. I'm glad I checked. So that is actually darker than the lightest point of the sky. Okay. And then we can observe that if that's darker than the sky, we know that this is definitely darker than the sky. And I'm willing to bet it's somewhere around here. Yeah. So it's like that, but it's a different chroma. So it's like it's a colder blue instead of a dark blue. Okay. Or instead of a warm blue. All right. So then we have our little darkest guys. So there's a ton of really interesting things we can break down in this painting. We could study how this white interrupts this black and how it makes a really like clear figure, and it's very interesting. We could study this texture of the snow, right? But the thing we are currently interested in is we are going to study this water. So let's get in there. And so when you're painting something, and I'm just going to say painting because we're studying a painting and also that is my background. When you're painting something, you really want to pay attention to the things that are around it, not just the object itself, but the things that are around it that give it context. That's what helps it make it look light or dark like we observed before. So one of the first things we see is we can see there is a gradient, right? So this is fading from brightest to darkest, that way and that way. Okay. So let's start by knocking in a gradient. And this one's challenging. This is a thing that's hard for me when you have all these extra shapes in there. So you have to sort of try to figure out how to reduce all the shapes to a single shape. Sorry for the sloppy gradient. Okay. So let's try to think about what is a good set of shapes here. Well, first we have our big, we're just going to talk us through this as we're looking at it. We have our big sort of arc here of the water. And then we have this like a couple of just like nice shapes breaking into that arc. And then this is tricky. This little guy, it might be lighter or it might be a different chroma. Oh, it's both lighter and a brighter chroma. Okay, well, that explains it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So then we can do that. And then this is really interesting. Do you see how this iceberg? Yeah, iceberg turns, the planes change. So I think it's because you have this bright chroma on the one facing to our right, and then it looks more gray on the one facing to our left. So let's see if that's what it was. It is. It's warmer and grayer. So that makes it look like what's called the plane, so the surface of it. That's what makes it look like the surface turned. The other thing we have is because it's ice, Ice is a very shiny surface. And remember when we talked about metal, how there's a lot of shiny on it. So the same thing, we can define this plane change a little better in this icicle by just dragging not like a bright white highlight on it, but just like a little bit. I took this color, this sort of medium, and you can sort of drag that along there, and then it makes it sort of stand out a little bit more. And then to get that to stand out a little bit more, we're going to go in with some darker there. Okay.
Could we represent like the darker part of it, the darker part of it with a little bit of dark gray? Or would that
Yeah.
be
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, you know what? So remember how I said like making mistakes is a good way to like loosen up your brain?
Yeah.
You want to do it when you're studying too. Like you want to occasionally do like stuff that might not work just to see what happens. So I'm going to do something very dramatic. I'm going to take a fully gray and put it in there. Does anyone have any guesses what might happen?
it might make it shine a little bit brighter. So everything will look really saturated.
Okay, let's find out what happens. What do we feel like happened? That gray makes everything more blue, right? And the gray looks like red. Because gray is a neutral color, so it looks like the opposite of whatever colors it's surrounded by. So gray is a very special, very fun color to play with. But I do think that like we can cheat with Photoshop and do in what's called a glaze. So that's like a light coloring or a light layer. And now that like sort of subtle gray, right, gives us another plane change. Oh, not there. Maybe there. And then, you know, we've just got all these icebergs we can sort of play around with. And let's try to, I feel like the main thing that's defining this water is the icebergs that's floating in it. And the way these icebergs are is you guys are dead on. Like there's a combination of saturated blues and desaturated blues so that it's making it look like there's all these planar changes and then because we did this medium gray or medium blue to do the highlights on that one, we're going to use a brighter one for the highlights on this one. And we're just going to be kind of subtle with it because it's already surrounded by so much light. Too much is going to make it read weird. And then I'm looking for a nice like sort of shadow. There we go. No, I don't like that. Maybe like that, and then take it down. Because that shadow is also helping sell that it's on the water, right? Because we know they're not just floating in space. We know something is buoying them. So it's like the context clues that's making it look like water. We can go in and like give some edges here. That was not the right color, but we'll survive. All right, and then you want to use big shapes. And then you can use big shapes to make other big shapes. That's not the right color. All right, and I want to do that. No harm in just stealing directly. long as we're learning. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, you can see right here, one of the things that's selling that this is water. We're just gonna do a red so that I can point to it easily. There's a little shadow right there that's sort of showing that this is casting a very broken shadow onto the water. And you can see there's one right there. And that's helping it look like water.
One thing that makes it look for like water to me is there's a little bit of ripples that you can see right next to the shadow.
Yeah, like these ripples going in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's all these like little tiny things you start defining. Like the way this is a really interesting shape to me. The way this goes like this. That shape is really does a good job defining this edge here, right? Because if you imagine if this edge just came out here and then this one went like that, that's not a very strong shape, is it? It doesn't look as defined as when we have this nice like one curving into it like that. So you can go around and like when you're studying this stuff, just try to look at the small moves they're making. And again, here we can see this like nice little water ripple effect coming in there and sort of interrupting that shape. And then like we discussed before, the big black shape right on the bright shape makes it very clear. Oh boy, last minute for questions.
Wow,
That's so cool.
I know. You should have your own YouTube channel.
I think there's probably a lot of people painting on YouTube.
And if that shape wasn't the way it was, the way it is, then
Uh-huh.
you'd be able to define the rock that's maybe on that line.
Yeah.
So
And-
Marissa, you were talking earlier about how some of our panels are pretty dark. So these are, if the kids are processing this and observing this, these are some of the techniques that we could start today to do some minute details into our panels.
Yeah, let me, in these last few minutes, I did do some edits on the panels if you guys want to see that. You guys want to see that?
Wow, so cool. Yes, yes.
Okay. Let me grab that. And so I just took 2 different pages and did edits
God.
just so that you guys
Notes if it's yours.
would be able to see it. So this one, we're going to do the train. So remember our discussions about sort of clarifying the forms and keeping everything consistent values. That doesn't mean they have to be the exact same value. It's just sort of grouping your values because this is the same drawing. It's just with the values grouped a little bit more, right? So if we look at it in black and white, do we see how we have our darkest grays in both the background, the middle ground, and the foreground? And then we can group them to just one area, and that will create the focus, right? And then again, our white in the foreground is our mid-tone of the middle ground, but because of the context, it looks like white. It looks brighter, okay? And then I did this page. So there was 2 things I did here, 2 panels I did. One, so we can see again, this like the most important things to give us our jobs back and the people, they're both getting a little lost because it's dark on dark, right? So if we group our values a little bit better, we don't have to change the drawing. you know, if we group our values a little bit better, we can create some focus of like where we're supposed to look. Okay. And then I also did the ideas one, because this is this selling blue sky exciting ideas? It's a little gray. So we're gonna take up our we're gonna put it with a bright blue, which also has the effect of making this this all now looks more gray, because this is saturated blue, right? So we're just going to use the same thinking we used before of like, what is my goal? What can I do to achieve that goal, right? What are my tools, right? I have hue, value, saturation. Where can I use better value? Where can I use contrasting saturation? Where can I use warm, cold contrast, right? And you can choose just one of those tools, and it works well. But it's the idea is just to like stop and think, and not like stress yourself out, but just stop and think. All right, how are we feeling?
That is so
That's
nice.
amazing.
That was the coolest thing ever.
Yes.
Okay.
For that.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow.
Yeah, and that'll give us some focus as we continue to work here too. It kind of gives them in their tool belt some things to look at.
Yeah, you guys got it. The ideas are there. It's just like I said before, I've been drawing since I was a kid, you know. I have a lot of experience. You'll get there. You're just at the beginning of your experience.
That made so much difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. All right. And I think we might have one more session, but I'll talk to Aaron about that. And then last chance for questions.
Any other questions, guys?
One thing, if you rendered that, would that change like the darkness?
Sure. So we can do that rendering real quick. So rendering is adding light and dark. We'll render one of the houses. Okay. So if we want to render one of the houses, the first thing we should start with is making sure that the base we're working off of is like, you know, pretty established. We're going to start with like a really neutral base. Boop. So this will change it, but again, I want to think about the value in relationship to the other things. So I know our sky is about that value. So I probably want it a little more saturated, and then a little lighter, like that. And then, so then we're thinking about where the roof is casting the shadow is there. I think maybe to make it look a little more like a house, we might want to add in some house features, you know, like let's see, probably a few more windows might help us. We'll do some fun windows like that. And then if there's like a I'm just looking out my window to cheat. You know, you guys know what I love to do. I love to cheat. Okay, and then we cast some shadows from is it called a lintel maybe? I don't know. But we can put the little house features on it, and we can cast shadows from those features. And then our windows are probably not brighter than the sky. But they might be like a nice, like kind of blue. And they can have, they should probably have some shadows on them. So again, our shadows are going to be a little darker, a little less saturated. I think we can take those a little darker, a little less saturated. And you just knock in some shadows. And then one sheet you can often do on square objects is you just take a little highlight and just give it a little highlight. All right. And then, oops. So then we have like a more rendered house, and it's not changing our value structures at all. We want to keep values in the top of our mind when we're rendering. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could render in some clouds, same principles. We want to stay in the same like sort of grouping. We can take it pretty light. Although as when we were looking, remember when we were looking at the painting, the clouds are darker than the sky. The sky itself, where the light is shining through, is the brightest part. So you want the sky to be light rather than the clouds. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but that is one way to do a sky. Sometimes I guess the clouds are brighter than yeah, I guess depends on what kind of day it is. Sometimes the clouds are brighter than the sky. All right. All right. Same thing. We're not disturbing our value structures.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
Marissa, this is great. We got some room to go back and we got a direction to make our work a little bit better. We appreciate you again taking some time to enlighten us with some new skills and thinking mindsets.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Marissa, I'll be in touch.
Awesome.
Bye. Thank you.